You're right, it was wild. Welcome back. Please allow me to give you a proper introduction for the next two readings. On the 25th of January, 2 weeks from tonight, Socorro Vanasco and Helen Dagan Cohen will be reading. And on the 8th of February, as I said, Linda Barry and our own Elizabeth Burke, will be reading. And they continue to happen. On the 22nd, Diane Williams and Patricia Lear. And we'll be here just about every 2 weeks on a Thursday. It's one of Chicago's only regular short fiction reading series, and we guarantee quality. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Wildman. He's the author of 2 experimental novels, which he's trying to forget. Has had short stories published in Tri-Quarterly magazine, ACM, Informations, as well as Chicago Magazine. He is an instructor in the program for writers at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and was a former editor of the Chicago Review back in their experimental days. He's the recipient of 4 IAC grants. Mr. Gene Wildman.
I'm going to read something that's work in progress. It's a novella, and I'm only going to read the first approximately 1/3 of it. So it won't be too long. It's kind of short story-like, but it's going to end in the middle. The title is Todd in Venice, and it starts with an epigraph that a member of this audience is responsible for putting under my nose. The epigraph is from T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. Then spoke the thunder, Da. Okay. Then it proceeds in a numbered sections. 1. You're thinking, Mimi says. If you're not thinking, you should be talking. Mimi is opposed to thinking. She is a follower of Werner Erhard and values spontaneity and possibility and pure expression of being. You do whatever you do, she is quick to point out. Don't get lost in your head. What Mimi likes doing more than anything is talking. It is 7 in the morning and she has called Todd to tell about her dream. Mimi has several dreams each night, which she wakes up from and immediately writes down. She keeps a notebook by her bedside, a discipline begun some 20 years ago, and now the many accumulated notebooks contain the record of an inner self over nearly half a lifetime. She is so in touch with the dream process that she easily alters the content of bad dreams and produces recurrences with the conflicts resolved. She was very proud of her ability to access this hidden part of herself. Todd can never remember his dreams, and these daybreak communions she is so fond of make him somehow a trifle uneasy. For a moment more he clings to sleep, and then his resistance falls away, and he lets himself float on the sound of her voice. This dream is about water, a frequent element in her sleep meditations. It begins with her and 2 of her sisters walking by a river near their village in China. They are schoolgirls, perhaps 13 and 14, and the other about 5. Mimi is the middle one. There are 6 girls in the family in all, but only the 3 appear here. Her sister Margie is present, the one she is closest to in age, and also the one she likes best. Her younger sister Connie is there too, who later had an affair with her husband. Till Connie came along, Mimi was the youngest. Everyone called her Maymay, which means younger sister. That is where she got her American name. They pass by some houses and look in the windows, but strangely this causes them to slide down the bank. There is the barest glimpse of furniture and televisions, but the houses seem to be otherwise empty. They tumble into the river, which is deep and surprisingly cold, and for a moment she is terrified they will all drown. Happily, they begin swimming easily. When they near the bank, they see a man waiting. He is dark and Mediterranean looking. The other girls are frightened, but Mimi reassures them. The man holds his hand out, and at that point she wakes up. There are, of course, more dreams, but this is the one that stands out. She wants to know Todd's opinion. He is not entirely sure what to say. There is the matter of rivalry among the sisters. Margie is happily married to a man he suspects Mimi has a crush on. Connie, the other sister, stole her husband. But is this a can of worms he wishes to open up, at least first thing in the morning? His hesitation prompts the injunction to desist thinking and start talking. I'm trying to get a feel for the imagery, he says. Stop feeling and speak your mind, she says. Okay, he snaps, then in that case, who is he holding his hand out to? It turns out it wasn't a hand at all, she rejoins, warming to the subject. It was actually a vine growing from the bank, a long, thick vine. The man was a few feet away watching. Are you interested in my other dream? Sure, go ahead, shoot, he says. In the other dream, he makes love to me. The landscape is almost identical, but it really is in the Bahamas. I was there a few years ago. We are inside a cottage and he pulls me on the bed. It is the same man as before. He is very handsome and looks familiar, but I don't know who he is. Here she pauses, considering presumably how much to tell him. He wonders again what went wrong between them. How could everything have disappeared so suddenly? It is hard to take this reversal seriously, not to look for some meaning inside it, some clue that may lead to a way back. Even the suggestion of an underlying meaning is sufficient to produce an outburst from Mimi. Things are what they are, she would say. If anything was there, we would be in bed now. But he knows something about disappearances too. These dark strangers have figured before, usually in curious Venice-like settings. Streets and buildings dissolve around her, plunging her into murky depths where the dark stranger either pursues or rescues her. These scenarios mirror her life. In China, the family moved from village to village, one step ahead of the Japanese army. Her father was a general and Kuomintang official, and they would have been killed or put in prison. Afterward came Hong Kong and Taiwan, and a desperate stretch in the U.S., where she moved from state to state. The dreams reveal a rootless core, someone who is at home everywhere yet nowhere. I change continually, she always claims. I never stay the same for long. Occasionally a breath of humor shines through. Once the stranger turned out to be her brother, and there was great merriment as well as mutual embarrassment. Another time a sign in a storefront read "Prawn Shop." Most often they are highly charged sexual melodramas, frequently with a certain scatological flair. In one, she is at her mother's house when some prominent Japanese arrive. Desperate to relieve herself and unable to find anywhere else to do so, she goes inside a priceless vase which the visitors apparently covet. Vases and cigars and smearing of food or other elements that appear with regularity. Women smoke cigars in her dreams, and men, and sometimes women, smear food on her body and lick it off. Lately, she has taken to smoking cigars herself. Waste matter often floats through the water in her Venetian dreams of dissolution. Always she emerges untainted and untouched, too. Mimi sits across from him, holding a cigar, turning it with her fingertips, looking at it curiously. They've come from Wings of Desire, a movie where angels see only in black and white, except for those moments when they feel human. Then the screen leaps into color. Now they have stopped for a nightcap. The place is crowded and the tables are jammed together, and theirs is much too close to the bar. You almost have to shout to be heard. I don't love you, Mimi says. All right, he says, it's enough. You don't turn me on, she says, puffing on the cigar again. She tilts her head back and blows a cloud of smoke. I got the message, he says. If I wanted it, we would have had it before. I know how to get what I want. She gives the cigar another turn and puts it back in her mouth. You stuck a knife into my heart, he says. That's your story, she says. That's right, it's my story and I don't like it, he says. Then stop telling it, she says. Take your knife out of your own heart and stop being such a victim. They've known each other since he got back from Bangkok. where he was researching the life of Jim Thompson, the American expatriate, a silk trader, who vanished without a trace in the 60s. The body was never found, and the mystery is unsolved. He was doing a thriller based on the case, called for the moment The Good Listener, on a tear, on fire, feeling like a rocket blasting off. That was more than a year ago, 14 months today. He is still on fire, but this is May Day. The thriller is mostly notes. The rocket appears to be losing altitude. Mimi had placed an ad in the paper which was quirky enough to induce his reply. She characterized herself as an Asian CEO looking to meet a superior man. Small feet need not apply. She has her own jewelry design business, whence the CEO. Was this apparent contentiousness only a put-on? What of the reference to the superior man? Ironic echo of the I Ching? In fact, she did not know what irony meant, down to the word itself. She liked things clear and could be dismayingly blunt. But they talked on the phone and arranged to meet at an espresso place they both liked. When he saw her walking through the door, he felt an electric shock. Everything he ever wanted was coming toward him. He regards her as retribution for Da, a balancing of accounts, divine justice. They are paired in his mind, merged almost, as if they themselves are lovers. Da is the woman he lived with in Bangkok. Her real name is Susha Da. Da is a nickname, and there is a story that goes with it about a virtuous girl, the primal Da, wrongly accused of disloyalty by the king. She protests her innocence, but to no avail, and the furious ruler has her beheaded, whereupon her blood, transformed into a rainbow, spurts right up to heaven. The day he left, she was devastated, rushing from the terminal, sobbing bitterly, unable to hold herself back any longer. She writes him often, and in his replies, he tries vainly to soften the blow. He had prayed at the Rama shrine that he would meet someone, burned incense, placed a wreath of flowers, picturing the woman he had in mind. A few days later, the picture came alive. They fell in love, but all at once he had vanished. It was as mysterious to him as it was to her. He could not recapture what he felt before. Now he is being repaid in kind. Today another letter came. She has not written in a while and feels awkward, but she thinks about him always, dreams of him. Things are very bad. She is thinking of returning to her home province, entering the temple, living as a nun. Last month her brother died. A truck transporting a load of fish swerved into his car, killing him and her half-sister. It is the rainy season and the roads are dangerous. She is alone in the world and has no one to turn to. Can he send money? She knows she was asked too often already. This would be the last time. How different these are from her first letters. He wonders if she is really writing them. He should compare the handwriting with the earlier ones. It would make a nice piece. Some enterprising friend acquires his address and along with her scuzzy foreigner boyfriend concocts these heartrending letters he gets. He could send back a letter mirroring hers, describing how dreadful things are for him. He is afraid of what else he may bring down on himself. 3. When Thompson came there after World War II, Bangkok was a network of tree-lined canals. It was always referred to as the Venice of the East. By the time he disappeared, the canals were mostly gone too, sacrificed in the name of progress. One by one they were filled in and turned into roadways. Nowadays the traffic jams rival those in LA and New York. The city has dried up like his capacity for dreams. He has been chasing Thompson for 10 years, but there is still nothing that he has to show for it. The idea of disappearance excites him. Where does something that is no longer there go? What are the changes on whatever remains? But he has not done anything for more than a year. It is not so much that he cannot find the words, but as if they have hardened and solidified too. The few dreams he does remember are almost replicas of actuality. There is the recent one about his own arrival. He steps from the terminal, thinks, so, I'm here, then squinting against the light looks up. A white balloon is shimmering in the sky, like a sign from above, which in fact it was. It was a promotion for my fascination, a line of perfumes being introduced in the stores. The balloon was in the shape of an elephant and was more than 150 feet long. The newspapers called it the Great Sky Elephant. The sky is about the only place they have not looked for the missing man whose life has come in pursuit of. In the dream, the elephant floats higher and higher and then abruptly is gone. Otherwise, it is much as it happened, nothing like Mimi's near-mythic adventures. He wishes Marilyn Monroe were a dream, though Mimi's dark stranger, the more that he hears of him, sounds close to the bone enough for them to be twins, Siamese twins, he ruefully notes. He ran into Marlon at a place called the Tiger's Eye that a lot of the expat crowd liked to hang out at. Dow was a bartender there back a few years. It was close to the time when he had to come back. There was no way he could stay on longer. Except for how things had worked out with her, he could not have been happier all in all. He knew that Tiger's Eye was also a stone that was considered especially lucky. He leaned over to Marlon and clinking glasses quipped, "At last I can say I'm in luck." Marlon has lived all over the East, one of those rough-and-tumble types Todd regards as an alter ego. Todd had asked him what he did for work, and Marlon, smiling, had said, "Oh, odd jobs. Nobody to fool around with," he could see. It was Marlon who brought up Jim Thompson. After buying each other a couple of rounds, Marlon, looking pleased with himself, confided he had a theory. "Politics," he said, winking, adding that Thompson must have been kidnapped. This in itself was nothing new, but Todd said that it sounded intriguing. Marlon added it was all on paper and wondered would Todd mind taking a look, letting him know frankly was he wasting his time. Figuring this was only bar talk, Todd said sure, he'd be pleased to do it. But afterward, when Marlon took him to his apartment and produced the manuscript, there was no way around it. He was stunned. It was exactly what he was working on himself, a spy send-up of the Thompson affair. Marlon's version was badly done, ungrammatical, ungainly, filled with pompous, inflated language, but it moved. He was a man of action, and it was packed with incident, fights and chases and murders and escapes. He had titled it, Todd felt revealingly, "The Man Who Walked Away from the World." They both had the same sense of Thompson, saw him as a company asset. They even used similar fictional names. Todd had called him Bill Donovan, Marlon was calling him Bill Anderson. And the premise was the same. Thompson was the most famous host in Asia, a kind of male anti-Maine. Gregarious yet sensitive by nature, he was an artist at drawing people out, lulling them into betraying their trusts. He became their confidence keeper, their secret sharer. Finally, he found out something he shouldn't. Marlon stood fidgeting, watching like a hawk, waiting for the verdict to be delivered. But Todd's heart was racing so he could hardly even breathe. His mind was a blank and he thought he might faint. "It's great stuff," he managed to gasp, after what seemed an eternity. At least if Marilyn Monroe were a dream, at some point he could hope to wake up. 4. Todd sits on a packing crate in a storage area at the international terminal. A group of workers, Mexicans mostly, who speak no English, are sorting Christmas tree ornaments, taking them from cartons and placing them in other ones, writing what kind and how many there are in magic marker along the sides. Yesterday the trees were stacked neatly in rows. He is here with Mimi, who is supervising the shift, a favor for a longtime friend of hers, a landscape architect who has the airport contract. He has no part in this, and there is nothing to do but watch. Mimi comes over periodically, asking the names of various ornaments. When he is unable to say, she looks annoyed. "I'm not a Christian," he protests, and she glares. In fact, she was raised as one herself. She asks him to roll up the sleeves of her sweater. Her hands are too dirty, she explains. The left one goes smoothly enough, but the right is harder because her blouse sleeve is bunched, and she yanks her arm impatiently back. Driving up, they had had their old familiar argument about why couldn't he accept the way matters stood. A Chinese torch song from the 30s was on the tape deck. The singer had a velvety textured voice, and the melody was hauntingly beautiful. He had told her he was still processing things. They would both have to wait and see. It's all your conversation, Mimi had said. All right, it's my conversation, he had said. So we're conversing, so what? So get out of your head. I don't think I'm in my head. I don't think I'm in my head. Listen to yourself. Think is all you do. The song came to an end, and she rummaged through some tapes and popped in Debussy's The Afternoon of a Faun. Is this the time or the place, he had said? Do we have to go into it in the car? I love that. Is this the time or the place? You're so lost in your head. It's absolutely not so. You live in your head, for God's sake. Is my erection in my head? She had shot an appreciative little smile. With you, it probably is. I have news. It's in my groin. They had driven for a while in silence. He'd been tempted to add, what about some fornication, F-A-W-N, but he had known better and said nothing at all. Every few seconds she had kept changing tapes. We could have so much, she had said finally, shaking her head sadly. I love you, he had said. Don't you get it? I don't care about you, she had said. Can't you get that through your head? The workers also watch Todd. He takes out his notebook and jots impressions. The women wear sweaters and dark skirts. The men are dressed in boots and Levi's and have tooled leather belts. They glance over and murmur in Spanish, and he senses something disapproving, even mocking. Why is he not dressed for work? What is he writing down? What is between the woman and him? Why is she so angry? He wonders what flights are leaving tonight. He has his credit cards with him. Why should he put up with any more? Another wrong word and he will be off for Aruba, wherever that is, and then he remembers. An island off Venezuela. There was a piece on television recently, something about a revolution in paradise. For the millionth time he asks himself, what is he doing with this impossible woman? How have they come to such a pass? Maybe he will finally stop taking her calls. If she phones, he will tell her, look, I have company. If she calls again, sorry, company is still here. In a few minutes, he will go upstairs and check the departure board. If there is a flight bound for anywhere, no matter, he will take it, not even bother to say goodbye. Vanish like Jim Thompson. Who knows? Maybe he will get lucky. There will be one for Bangkok and he can go back to Da. But in fact, he cannot go back to her. Mimi's friend and her partner have returned. They were off in another part of the airport. She has not introduced them, a curious omission, but the friend, Jerry, adjusts the light so he can see his jottings more clearly. Jerry, J-E-R-I. I see too clearly already, he thinks, but he looks up and smiles and thanks her. He runs through the list of preferred destinations, places he has never seen. Rio, Athens, Bali, Venice, the liquid city, the drowning city, city of Mimi's dreams. Jerry and her partner round up the men, taking them to one of the other terminals where there is heavier physical work to be done. The women remain sorting the ornaments, counting little glass cherries now, filling up several cartons with them. Others are filled with glass tomatoes, glass snowballs covered with glitter, silver foil fans, and large stuffed Santa Clauses. There is even a box of female Santas, wearing cute red pantsuits and topped with little blonde wigs. They remind him for some odd reason of Mimi. What is it he cannot let go of in her? She is the one lost in her head. She wants to purge herself, start fresh and clean. Somewhere she must have been terribly hurt or done some dreadful, unforgivable thing before her husband, her father's choice. Why else those images of waste in her dreams, and which come up over and over in her speaking? You don't like sticking to the facts, she keeps insisting. Things are whatever they are. It's so simple. Wonderful, he always takes care to remind her. Have you ever known anything that is not what it is? Don't you know what it's like just to be, she retorts, not in your head, free of your conversation and your identity, free of your shit and your idea of yourself and really who you are? This promise of freedom excites her, plunges her into dizzying abstraction and the reduced reality of fact alone. Ignore that this is contradiction, he reasons. Ignore that facts are interpretations too, matters of common consent, ideas. Perception is involved, psychology. It is not simple, merely simplistic. She smiles as if looking from a great height. In her worst nightmares, she cannot move, and that is her greatest fear in life, that she will be paralyzed. She will never let herself be pinned down. She is always going somewhere, doing something, shifting. In the end, it has made her rigid, inflexible. Her talk has little anecdotal content. Anecdotes are stories, conversations, hence to be avoided. She comes alive, expanding on her concepts, the currency of her Werner Erhard groups. And of course, when she is relating her dreams, as if in dreams she is not in her head either. He glances at his watch. It is nearly 10, and he calls out that he is going up for sandwiches. They have not had even a morsel since lunch. By now it is doubtful anything would be leaving, though possibly something still coming in. Even to watch an arrival would be nice, just to confirm that somewhere else is still out there. He makes his way through the maze of corridors, up the stairs, and into the terminal. It occurs to him that he may not be able to find his way back again. So much for solving the Thompson mystery, cutting through the tangle of secrecy and subterfuge. It seems an absurd ambition now. He can see the headlines in the paper the next day. Hope fades for man lost in airport. There are half a dozen people in the waiting area, but he notices the woman right away. She is pretty and dark and by herself. She might be Greek or Middle Eastern, possibly even Italian. It is a look he was attracted to when he was younger, and has led in a progression first to Da and now Mimi. When she sees him staring, she looks up and smiles, and he wonders whether she is leaving or waiting for someone on an inbound flight. Having a long wait, he asks. Not when you're waiting for what you want, she says. Her accent proves to be French, though her English could not be better. How about you? Are you waiting too? What I'm waiting for has already left, he says. There is something responsive, even forward about her, free of Mimi's compulsive complicatedness. You're impossible me, he once told her. How much he longs for a simpler Mimi, someone to fly with, rise up with toward the sun. The cafeteria is at the end of the terminal, so he wishes her luck and continues walking. There is a long line and the service is slow, and by the time he has gotten his sandwiches and come back, the woman is gone and the waiting area is empty. A cleaning crew is buffing the floor. As he makes his way back through the winding corridors, it strikes Todd what is so strange about Mimi. It is what she does with her Erhard stuff, what people did once with Freudian symbols. Nothing was ever what it was. A cigar could never be just a cigar. For her, the opposite has become the truth. Things are what they are and no more. Nothing has any deeper meaning. Only the surface has reality. Yet her dreams are the reflection of who she is. When he gets back, he sees her at once, a look of shock across her face. The women are dressed and ready to leave. Everyone is tired and they've been waiting for him. There has been a small accident. One of the snowballs has broken in Mimi's hand. Broke just like that, he says? Yes, just like that, she says. Her lips purse and he can feel the tension. In her surprise when it happened, she tipped a carton over. There was a pool of glitter on the floor. Powder from the wings of a butterfly, he thinks. Luckily for her, the skin is not punctured, but she looks frightened all the same. He reaches over to look at her hand, and this time she does not pull back. They lock up and walk to the parking lot, and he thinks how very different they are. She runs from meaning while he yearns for it. She savors her dreams while his are unknown to him. When they get in the car, he can feel her exhaustion. For all the problems she causes him, she is so unexpectedly, surprisingly slight. He wonders if they will ever
We're the only people who know that I'm that old.
I'm telling everyone. Did you hear what she said?
Tail's always
I
blonde.
took 10 years off list. Okay, so anyway, so where was I?
You were Benny Goodman.
Benny Goodman. So I tried out. At that time, there was a movie out called The Benny Goodman Story. Steve Allen played Benny Goodman. And they were looking for a female, the new female vocalist. I came in second. I don't know who won. The girl who was in the movie, whoever she was.
Jim Taylor.
Number 2 might as well be 88, right? Anyway, so I went from Mademoiselle to look
was her first
The
obligation.
damnation of the artist. That's what it is.
See, that he knows it. That was my obligation. I was sent to interview.
Right.
God damn it, I had to interview.
Yeah, but have you ever heard him carry a tune?
What I did was very foolish. In movies, you know, I would have immediately broken into song. He would have said, "Put that woman in
That's right. I'm gonna make you a star.
Yes, and I didn't open my mouth, which gave me my first clue that I was not meant to be a singer. Meanwhile, I had records in 78, a 78 record that show that I was really, I was terribly.
You had 78. You're on the label.
Expect me to read that? Are you kidding?
Laura Lee.
Laurie,
Maybe
no,
when I was 10.
Gleason.
Okay, what,
Laurie Gleason.
around
You double the tax. You double the tax.
7:05.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, we do.
I was so good. In the meantime, oh, now here's the end of the story. Want the punchline?
Yes.
Here's the punchline. 30 years of smoking, from half a day to 3 packs a day, until about 4 years ago, this marvelous, fantastic voice had become a crow's caw.
And with the tip
Thanks
card,
to
But that is very sexy, though.
No, it was just a regional voice was gone. Gone.
Did you hear that, Sylvia? You gotta cut smoking or you're gonna kill your voice.
My singing voice?
She's too young yet. Wait, this is what happened. Suddenly, I had gone to,
Maybe then I'll hear you too.
What are you talking about? She's 52 years old.
oh, well, anyway, she's close. Then you better, what happened is I used to sing over with a fellow named Bruce Miles in Chicago. He plays at the State Interview. And I got up to sing as usual, and the voice was completely gone. Destroyed. The 3 packs a day had finally done it. Now, the interesting story is last October, a year ago October, I quit. I had to quit. I was desperately ill and dying at the time. And it's been a year now, over a year and 2 months. And about a week ago, I got in the shower and
Thank you very much.
singing. The voice is coming
Thank you.
back.
Now, if you have a choice at this point to win a Pulitzer Prize or a Tony, what would you rather have?
Oh, hey, it's too late.
No, if you, I'm not saying if you could.
No. Pulitzer Prize, I remember. It's right.
So what is the Sylvia Plath connection?
What is what?
What is the Sylvia Plath connection?
Oh, the Plath connection is simply that.
And we get
And you
there,
met everyone on the boat.
everyone on the boat, but that didn't help us when we got to the island pond. It was not a place to stay. So we checked every tourist agency, every hotel. There was nothing in town. So we said, so what? I had a letter from going to Club Med that said we could have free nights. We went to Club Med. So we went
After
for
all this-
right. So we took. It was about 2 hours out.
Train.
Remember that train? One car and no toilets, and it was really bad. I remember this is very small.
It was the Orient Express.
It was
the opposite.
right. So we get off the train, and it's dusk, and it looks like we have got to stay someplace, right? And we're on a mountain. The top of the mountain is where the train let us off, and there's a train leaving.
Stage brush everywhere.
Right. And we're standing there, and I see a car coming, and I said, Linda, open your blouse. You know? She said,
Linda, open your blouse?
This one.
right. So,
Clever of you.
oh,
Take it off.
days I would wear a halter top. Remember my blue halter top with the white pin?
I remember that.
Right. So I'm standing there and I'm saying, oh my God, this is getting bad. So we started talking about another car comes by. Nothing. It keeps going. I said, I know I'm old. I said, this is too much. I said, this is I have reached the age when they were not stopping any longer. And I said, I gotta take the whole blouse off. This is ridiculous. So Linda says, let's walk. I said, oh God. We're dragging our luggage down this mountain. It was
With your boobs.
That didn't work.
Do you know where this what? Where was it?
We didn't know where we were.
In
well,
person.
right, we got to the bottom and they finally let us. No, actually, we did get
Wait a minute. We stayed
But he tried to charge us. He was going to charge us.
Yeah, but we left at
Clever of you.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Very good. That was terribly clever of you. I like that.
We didn't pay for anything. We stayed a month.
Oh, it was wonderful.
You didn't pay for
Oh,
anything?
how wonderful.
What?
And Linda, when I go to
club and I'm the king or queen before I'm out of there.
Gee, I wish I'd been with you.
Oh, it's fabulous. We knew everyone. This one.
It's easier to
This
go with
one,
someone.
she had outfits I never saw. She
That was
pulled
a
them out of her trick bag.
Bob and I went. We wouldn't have.
I saw her.
Do that.
I saw her on stage doing some exotic dancing, and I said, "Who is that? Her? Some outfit."
Remember that outfit?
I don't know. You never wore it again.
The white, well, it was a white halter top with black hip hop. Those were the days.
You had all kinds of different halters. You had blue halters, white hip buckets.
That was the stopping cars.
You had about 62 different combinations with all halters.
So I only had 2 combinations.
Oh, you did?
They always worked in those days, right? That was
But she's on stage at Club Med doing a show.
I didn't know I was on stage.
What was that thing up there you were standing on and dancing?
They were all watching this guy that was dancing. He had that.
And you, him and you. You forgot you were up there too.
That was fun. That was fun. We met some fun.
Those were the good old days, right?
We won't go into any other details, thank you very much.
But win.
Everything
It
happened.
would have been before I was married. So when was that?
25 years ago. 1952! He's excommunicated.
Oh, I hope not. Even that's beyond my
No,
time.
it was 19.
Where is your husband?
saga?
He's gonna know it in 5 minutes.
Home with our son.
Oh, and where do you live?
About 10 blocks.
Oh, isn't that nice? I love happy endings.
It's better than walking on the screen.
Oh, I